All right, what is up, everybody? It's your boy Brian here with my boy Doug. It's our last college football transfer. This is our last transfer portal CFP podcast of the season. At least for the 2021 season, we have a lot of content coming up in the off season and recruiting and everything coming up. But at least for the 2021 season, this is it, man. It went by in a blur. Went by so quick. I can't believe we're already here. It's already the end of the season, but there's no better feeling than being champs. Shout out to the other guys in the transfer portal for giving us dog fans this platform to kind of talk about our win and this recap this championship game. No better way to do it than with two dog fans talking about this win. But before we get going, let me introduce my boy Doug. Doug, how are you, sir?
Feel good, man. Feel good, man. Like I said earlier, we weren't going to do this if we lost to Bama, which we did earlier. But now that we beat them, we're back. We don't have to worry about jinxing because the jinx is over. This is probably the first time in ever you'll see a confident UGA fan for everything because the clouds over their head is gone. It's a new day.
Yeah, no, definitely it is. It's an interesting feeling because we're not used to this, right? We're used to just kind of getting that uneasy feeling like, of course, here we go. And what is going to happen? What else is going to happen? And we'll get to that a little bit later during the game. But yeah, I mean, we knew it was coming. It was inevitable. Georgia, Alabama. We knew it where this season, and we pretty much knew halfway through the year where this was headed, right? We were heading to this monumental matchup in the national championship game. We knew Alabama was going to get there. We knew there was a pretty good chance we were going to get there, and that's exactly what happened. We saw what happened in the SEC championship game between these two teams, and it looked like it was once again, Georgia just couldn't get over the hump. They couldn't get their monkey off their backs against Alabama. Nick Saban he just has something on Kirby Smart, just like he has on all of his other assistants, aside from Jimbo Fisher, apparently. But we knew where this was going. And then we get to the college football playoff with Alabama, and Georgia just completely steamrolling their opponents. And we got to this moment between these two matchups. I talked about it in the post game after the playoff games, the semifinal games, is that why does it always have to be Alabama? Why does Georgia always have to run into Alabama whenever we have a chance to win a championship? It happened in 2012. It happened in 2017. It happened, last year or a couple years ago in the SEC championship game. It always ends up being Alabama, and it was no different. We had to get to Alabama, but we don't have to worry about what ifs anymore. They did it. Georgia won, so it's definitely a great feeling. Great last few 72 hours or so, 48 hours or so, to kind of get over that hump and get that monkey off our back is definitely special. But let's talk about. Before we get into the game, obviously we don't want to recap the game, through the X's and O's standpoint. We're obviously fans, right? We've been diehard Georgia fans our entire lives. I'm 25 years old. I've never seen Georgia win a championship. I mean, it's two generations at this point now between the last time Georgia won a championship. So, man, I was nervous as heck during the pregame, man. It was insane how I tried to keep myself busy on Monday. I played a round of golf in the morning. I specifically made some appointments. I had an appointment for my son. I had a doctor's appointment for myself throughout the day, just to keep myself busy and keep my mind out of it. And I think it really helped. But what about you, Doug? How was your pregame feelings like? What were you thinking? What did you do on Monday to kind of how are you feeling on Monday before the game started?
Yeah, no, definitely. So back in November, trust me, this leads to the pregame. So back in November, like Black Friday, I bought a Nintendo Switch. So that Monday, I was playing a lot of Mario Tennis just to pass the time by. So I was playing that in the morning when I wasn't at work. When I got back from work, I was playing it more. I hopped on. We did the Twitter Spaces for the pregame, and it was just Mario Spaces because I got to this one level where I was trying to beat Boo, and Boo was kicking my ass. So like that honestly kept me distracted long enough to where I didn't have to, like I wasn't actively thinking of the game. So I had my Switch on deck, keeping me occupied because nothing frustrates people more than levels they can't beat. So yeah, so that's why I didn't really. It was out of mind, out of sight. The only issue, like I played the Switch a lot more because also like Eagles fan here, disclaimer, the Eagles already clinched a playoff spot. That Saturday night game was meaningless. Like there was literally no need for me to watch like football heavily that weekend. Even like fantasy was done. Like I cared about playoff spots, but it's like we were 6th and 7th seed at most. So I'm just like, let me just do switch because I'm not really trying to think about football. Because to think about football, think about Georgia, think about Alabama. Wasn't trying to think about that really outside of our spaces.
Yeah, that's definitely something. I know we were doing the spaces too, and I couldn't be in it. I was too just I needed to get myself out of it. In 2018 when we played Alabama the first time in the championship, I remember being at work and I literally could not. I felt like I was going to throw up. I couldn't concentrate. I couldn't do anything. I was just so nervous. My stomach was in knots the whole day. So I kind of did this when the Braves were on their run, through the World Series. I kind of took myself away from the game and took myself away from the series and kind of just let whatever happen. Don't let myself get too emotionally invested early, because then it'll just torture you. Just thinking about the possibilities of what's going to happen. So it worked, right? It obviously led to. I'm not saying that's what made them win, but it helped. Just having that feeling of not having to feel so nervous and just those butterflies in your stomach when you get. So it definitely helped getting away from it a little bit. It was fun. It definitely was in my mind. It was in the back of my mind, like, oh man, like, and I was already thinking of. I already had that picture in my head of Bryce Young, throwing a deep ball in the end zone for a touchdown to
Yeah.
win, a la Tua Tagovailoa in 2018. I already had those memory, and I was like, nope, let me not think about that. Let me not even go there. And so I was in my fantasy team was in a championship game. I had my fantasy championship this weekend as well, which I unfortunately lost. But I was literally bargaining with the higher beings. I was like, please, if you have to let me win one, I will gladly accept. I will gladly take a fantasy loss. I don't care that I don't care that I can win $700. I don't care about the money. I'd rather have the Georgia win the championship. So if you're gonna give me one, give me Georgia. Please give me Georgia. And sure enough, I guess they listened because that's what happened. But yeah, no, it was a fun pregame for sure. And then the game started, and then kickoff happens, and everything goes away, and you just it's weird as a fan because you kind of feel like a player a little bit because once the ball is kicked off, you're just in it and you're just watching the game. At least for me, you're watching the game. And that's all you can think about. You're just sitting there almost numb, just watching.
Yeah.
And then early on, it didn't look great. It really didn't. We had Stetson Bennett didn't look so hot early on. He definitely looked like he had some pregame jitters. The moment was definitely a little bit big for him, it looked like. And it was just kind of that back and forth sloppy defensive battle. And you just kind of, for me at least, I felt that there was like every time Alabama had the ball, I had that feeling, that impending doom of they're going to score, or they're going to have a big play and they're going to score. And it's going to be 14-3 or 21-3 by the end of the first quarter. But and that didn't happen. So, early on, at least that's what I was feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I know for me, when Jordan Davis ended up forcing a fumble. Kobe ran it back for a touchdown, but then it was ruled incomplete. I was like, oh no. No. It was the right call. Like, don't get me wrong, it was the right call because Bryce's arm was going forward and he had control. So I'm not really upset at it. But it's just like we don't get these breaks against Alabama. Like we do not at all. And to the credit of the defense, they did well. They helped carry us most of the game. Like they didn't allow touchdowns when Alabama actually had to drive. They were able to stop the running game, which was expected because best run defense in the country. They're the secondary. I mean, granted, Mechie was already out, and then Jameson became out like midway through the game. They held up. At least Kendrick held up pretty well on his end. Ringo, barbecue chicken, but cannot complain about him because, of course, the pick six. But before we get there, it's just like he was getting sauced. And the advantage that we had was that with those two injuries, Alabama was pretty inexperienced out wide. At least like our freshmen, like AD, Brock, like they played a lot this year. And I think that was a key difference. Like our freshmen played a lot versus their freshmen, which is the lights were too bright for them. Not for AD, who made that amazing catch. Wasn't too bright for Brock, who was able to take that screen and take it to the house. Like they were battle tested. It was amazing because the team just flipped the switch in the fourth after whatever that fumble was. All right, let me sidebar real quick here. Why would you even like 9 times out of 10 go down or do grounding? Like go down. Like that fumble was just, and credit to the Alabama player for, I don't even think he intentionally did that. He just did it and it just worked out. Impeccable timing. But that fumble, like once I saw that fumble, I was pretty much lost all hope. But to credit the mailman, even though I've been critical of him the entire year, he showed up when we needed him most. That deep bomb to AD, beautiful. Like I think that was a beautiful pass, man. It was probably his best pass, like ever. To be honest with you, in terms of velocity, placement, like in the wheelhouse, like it was definitely his best pass. And then the following drive, like granted, James Cook did help set it up. James Cook and Zamir have been great the whole time. Once the offensive line actually decided to show up, they were actually getting more push, more leverage, and the lanes were opening up. Like Zamir and James were able to take enough pressure off Stetson to where he could play within himself. And I think somebody in the spaces, I think our friend Stunna, he mentioned that Stetson shouldn't have to play like Heisman level talent. If Stetson plays to the best of Stetson Bennett's ability rather than playing to a level he's not capable of, then Georgia can go places. And they did. And now they're national champions.
Yeah, man. It's before I continue, for anybody that doesn't know, or I'm sure they can see now, I'm currently on daddy duty. So if I get out of frame or if you hear little babbles, it's my 4-month-old son, who happens to be, I think, is the reason why we're all here. It's been 26 years of my life, or 25 years of my life that I've been on this planet, that I have not seen Georgia win a championship. I haven't seen the Braves win a championship. And this little kid comes into this world, and in 4 months, he was born in August 31st. In 4 months, Braves win the World Series, Georgia wins Cincinnati. And if that's not spoiled, I don't know what is. I hope that's an omen for the rest of his life. I wish him all the success in the world. And I'm just happy to go along for the ride. But I digress on that. Yeah, man. And it really felt like it was kind of those things where it was a typical game where the breaks were going Alabama's way. It always seems that way. Whenever we play Alabama, the breaks always go their way. We saw it in the SEC championship game when Bryce fumbled and there were 6 Georgia defenders in the vicinity of that ball, and he was literally pinned to the ground. And Nolan Smith, instead of holding on to him, he went for the ball, kind of let him go, and then he kind of wiggled in there and grabbed the ball and ended up scoring right before halftime. Those breaks, they always go their way. And it started that way. We had that fumble in the very first play or the first or second play of the game. They called it back, which was a right call, but they just always get the break. And then the Stetson Bennett fumble. When does that ever happen? He wasn't the Alabama defender. He wasn't even going for the ball. He was just running. He thought it was an incomplete pass. He just kind of touched it because it was going out of bounds. And it just happens to be inbounds, and it's happened to be called a fumble. It's just like, how does that always happen? And as soon as that moment happened, I was like, that's it. This is it. This is that is a play every year. It's that one play that is the defining moment against Georgia that ultimately is their downfall. And that's that play right there. That moment. It's going to be another meme in the record books. It's going to have another nickname that everybody's going to call for the rest of history against that Georgia's fans are going to have to hear forever. And you really thought once they scored that touchdown, you really thought it was it. It was just that is the fate that Georgia is destined to have, because that's how it always happens. But I think a play that a lot of people don't talk about, that I haven't seen a lot of people talk about, over the last few days, is the blocked field goal.
Yes.
At the end of, when Alabama went down and they I think they were up what, 9-6 or 12 they were up 12-6, I think.
No, it was 9 because they didn't. It was 9-6 because they went for 2, because that's why it was actually
No, I think it was 9. It was 9 to. Was it 9? It was they were scoring 12.
Actually, it was 12.
It scored them 12 points.
Right. Yeah.
So I think it was 9-3 or 9-6. I don't know. Anyway, so that field goal, it would have put them up, a little bit more. You kind of get the momentum was on their side. You kind of started to feel that shift coming. You knew that they were a big play away. And we blocked the field goal. Shout out Jalen Carter, man, for blocking that field goal. We've been doing that all season long. I don't think I've seen, I think not even this season, the last 4 or 5 years since the Rose Bowl against Oklahoma, we've been getting to the ball, and we never blocked these kicks. So it was a special play. And I think that really shifted momentum, because right after that we had the
touchdown.
The big James Cook ran the 65-yard touch run, and then we punched it in the end zone after that, and that kind of shifted the momentum a little bit before that Stetson Bennett fumble. That's a big play right there.
No, like the defense, special team, like they did well. Like Pod Lesney kept us in the game as well. Like, even though he's been kind of shaky, like at least to start the season, but like in the end, he came in clutch yet again in another big bowl game. So, got to give him credit there. It was just that second half. I don't know what clicked. Like the offense started performing better. The defense again still held serve. Like they were great the entire time. Like the offensive line, everything just clicked, and I'm just thankful everything clicked. The only thing I will say is that Monken needs to come up with better 2-point conversion calls, because that run the Cook really on 2, it's so generic, but it is what it is. Oh yeah, that and the double reverse that he tried to do on second and long, that was weird, because Alabama was clearly blitzing. It was just a bad call, but overall, great game from him onwards. So don't want anybody fired. Like my usual calls for firings after losing big games, gone. because we didn't lose this one.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's a crazy feeling. You know, you just kind of, like I said, we were just kind of waiting for that big play from Alabama to take over. You know, just instinct, just says they're gonna have that big play. They're gonna have that big play. They're gonna have that big play. They're gonna have a big play, and it just never came. You know, you can consider that fumble as a big play, but it didn't matter because we went down and scored right after that. And credit to Stetson Bennett, and I really like what he said. I really liked what he said against afterwards. He's like, I wasn't going to be the reason we lost that game. And I think that just comes from he knew. I mean, he knows what the stigma is around him and what the fan base thinks about him. And if he was the reason we lost a national championship game, God bless his soul, man. He would not have been able to live with that standpoint.
Yeah, no, like Stetson from after the fumble, I think he was perfect in terms like actual like completion percentage, accuracy, like throws. They're actually pretty good throws too. It wasn't like he was just throwing screens, like he was throwing deep. Like that screen pass to Brock, you had to time it perfectly because otherwise it gets batted down. Like you saw 1 split second, the other one gets up earlier, bat. But nope, Brock is there. Credit to the one thing I always give credit to Kirby is that he always is good with getting receivers to block because the receivers helped. I think Rosemary Jackson helped on the Bowers touchdown. So Kirby's been that's one thing I'll give him. And just Bennett, like I hadn't seen him do this on a big stage ever. Like we haven't. Like we saw him struggle against Bama last year. We saw him struggle against Florida last year. We saw him struggle against Bama this year. We saw him struggle against 3 quarters. Like this is the best he's done, and for that, I am forever grateful.
Yeah, I mean he's going to be in lore forever. He's going to be in Georgia lore for the rest of his life. And good for him. I mean, he deserves it. All the adversity that he went through, he definitely deserves that. So, you know, it's you just kind of sit there and just marvel at how this team, you know, is put together because there's a lot of we always talk about Kirby's 5 stars and all this other stuff and you know, but who really made the difference was, you know, 3-star walk-on in Stetson Bennett. You know, AD Mitchell is a 3-star. Some of these guys, Dan Jackson, you know, that have really made the difference all season long. They're not 5-star guys, and that's special. That is really special of how they were able to do that. So, and then you know, obviously we get to the end, we score, right, and then Alabama's driving down the field late to tie. And I had my thought process was the Super Bowl that the Falcons Super Bowl against the Patriots when the Patriots were down by 8, they were marching down to tie the game, and they did, and they went to overtime and won. And I was like, if this game goes in overtime, we're losing, and I just expected that to happen. And they didn't. So, and then obviously. Keely Ringo had that pick, and I was just please just get down, just get down, don't even risk it. But no, man, shout out to Keely, man. He, no disrespect to Alabama, he said, no, I'm scoring, I'm going to the end zone, and it was just a perfect cap off to unbelievable game. And it's weird to say, but I'm glad it was a close game. It just feels better when it's a close game. You know, a blowout, it just kind of takes the moment away a little bit because you know, halfway through the game or in the third quarter, you already know what the outcome is, and that feeling, that moment where like, holy shit, like this is happening, it kind of doesn't really hit the same. You know, like when the Braves won the World Series against Houston, they were up 7-0, So when that final out came, it just didn't really hit the same as it would have if it was, a 3-2 game where they had runners on base. The
Right.
fact that it was a close game and we capped it off on that type of play, it definitely made it a lot more special.
Yeah, no, like I totally get it. Like it's just because you said earlier, you get taken out of it. Like when it was Clemson, Alabama, it was like the 44-16 game. Like I didn't really watch that second half. Like I was just taken out of it completely, and I was a neutral, so like I didn't have any interest in it. Like I love college football, but it's like a blowout's just not interesting. Like the year USC beat Oklahoma, it was a blowout. Nobody watched it. It was ugly. Like it just takes away from the moment. I mean, yeah, you win a national title, but like as a fan, yeah, you want it to be easy, but like same time, you'll be celebrating second, third, fourth, and by the time they actually like lift the trophy, you're kind of like tired a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. You're not over it, but you're definitely. It's not that it doesn't. It's definitely not the same. It's not the same feeling that normally would have happened if it was like how it did happen.
Yeah,
I can't even imagine what like imagine if second and 20 what happened in 2018. And you know what? I can talk about 2018 it's
yeah, we
carefree
can
now.
like we can
I don't
breathe.
care
Yeah,
anymore. So it doesn't that feeling of pain doesn't it's gone. I can talk about it. I can watch the replays. I can I don't care because we got it. We got one. We got
yeah,
one. So but imagine that happening if that was reversed, if Georgia had won that way, which is kind of essentially, you can almost sense that is kind of that pick six almost it is similar type of play. It was the game wasn't tied or anything, but it was a one possession game. They were driving, and Keely made an amazing play and shot. And like you said earlier, he didn't play his best game. He really didn't. And he's kind of had an up and down season. He's kind of had he struggled a little bit throughout the year, maybe more so than what we would liked him to be.
yeah,
But he came up in big moments, and obviously he's forever he's forever enshrined in Georgia history and in Georgia, lore for the rest of his life and for the rest of our lives. And he's only a freshman. That's the thing that fascinates me about this team is that he's only a freshman.
yeah,
Technically redshirt freshman because he had a shoulder injury last year, but he's only a freshman. Brock Bowers is a freshman. AD Mitchell is a freshman. We have a bunch of young guys still in the wings that are ready to come up. That this isn't a one and done. This isn't a 2019 LSU one and done situation. Georgia
yeah,
has the ability to stick around for a long time, and that's what makes this one special. Because if it wasn't now, if we weren't going to win a championship now, Bryce Young's still coming back. Alabama's still
mm-hmm.
going to have a powerful team next year. Ohio State's going to reload. I can assume that Clemson's going to reload next year.
Yeah,
If it wasn't now, then you can kind of start having that conversation of Kirby Smart being one of those coaches that just can't win. He was so close all the time, but couldn't win the big one. But we don't have to worry about that anymore. It's over.
It's over. Don't got to worry about that. Kirby's that guy.
Yeah, no, he definitely is. So let's kind of look back a little bit on the season itself. This is our end of season podcast, but obviously, like I said, this is more of a Georgia recap because we get center stage, baby. They gave us center stage, and we're Georgia homer, so we're gonna talk about Georgia.
Oh yeah.
Looking back on the season in whole, was there a moment when you knew like this is it, like we're gonna win the championship this year?
So thinking about winning a championship. So I'm gonna cross the SEC championship game out of my mind because that's where I pretty much lost faith. But when I had faith, I would say was the punt block against Arkansas. Like, because Arkansas is a good team. They actually finished well this year, so I have to give them credit there. But like seeing us, because think about it, Arkansas put up 40 against Texas. Granted, Texas stinks. Their offense is generally pretty good, but shutting down a surprise team like that in our house, giving them a shutout, then giving Vandy a shutout as well, shutting out opponents 100-0. Like that punt block showed that we were for real. The only other moment, like I would have said the Chris Smith pick six against Clemson, but like trepidation because DJ was not good, but KJ Jefferson, Arkansas is good. And just that once we got that block, I know the team was amped. I know that nothing was getting allowed. I know nothing was stopping them. That was a moment I knew. And then favorite would have to be, it's a good question. I don't want to say pick six. That's just way too obvious. I don't want to do anything natty because natty's just
that's a whole
natty's
different
just cheat code.
Yeah, it's a different shelf.
I'll go with the James Cook show in the Orange Bowl because James was just godly. We've seen him be a receiving threat last year, but then the Orange Bowl just took it to a whole new level. Like, see him coming out wide, boom, touchdown, boom, 20 yards, boom, 30 yards. Like, it was just like, I am glad that he is not known as Dalvin's little brother. He's his own man. Damn good dog. Gonna be a future stud in the NFL.
Yeah, he's James Cook. He's not Dalvin's little brother. He's James Cook. That's pretty special. I think I was thinking about that earlier. You know, what my favorite moment and you know, what moment that I know like, okay, yeah, we're legit. And I think that 4-game, it was about it was like a 4-game stretch where it was ranked Arkansas, ranked Kentucky, ranked Auburn. We would have been ranked Florida, but Florida stinks, so they lost a bunch of games before they played us. And then we just completely annihilated through that stretch. And I was like, holy, because for me at least, or we're used to just that one game where they just crap the bed, just random, uncharacteristic game where they either get blown out or they lose to South Carolina at home for no reason at all. And that never came. It was the most stress-free football season I can remember in my life. You know, besides the second quarter in the SEC championship game, you know, it was pretty perfect football for a long time. So I think that 4-game stretch, starting with Arkansas, like, oh my God, this team is legit. It's a legit team. The defense is legit. You know, I would say that it was when we beat Clemson, I kind of like, okay, you know, we got that the big game. Kirby can't win the big game omen, you know, out of the way. The monkey's off his back. But it kind of gets diluted a little bit because we saw how Clemson played the rest of the year. But that moment was, you know, that 4-game stretch, because like you said, Arkansas finished very well. Kentucky finished very well. You know, they finished ranked. You know, Auburn, you know, they could have had a better season, but you know, they still just go to Jordan Hare and dominate. And Stetson Bennett looked, you know, he looked good. You know, he didn't look like 2020 Stetson Bennett. He was making throws. He was getting, you know, especially that Auburn game. You know, he had that long touchdown to Ladd McConkey. He had those, you know, he was in a hostile environment in Jordan Hare, and he went in there and just, you know, he took care of business. And that's what that was special to watch, man. I know we give a lot. I'm guilty of it. You're guilty of it. We wanted, you know, the margin for the the margin for error for Stetson all season was very, very small. And it's almost unfair to him, because if he was a 5-star quarterback, those errors that he was making, you could kind of excuse him a little bit sometimes because
Right.
you know that he's going to make the play. But with a guy like Stetson Bennett, the moment he made a mistake, you're already, we're stretching out the hook to yank him out. It was almost unfair to him. But as fans, we obviously sitting here on the couch, we know what we want, but they make the right decision. So yeah, that was my favorite. But my favorite moment was that long touchdown to Ladd McConkey against Auburn, and that kind of solidified, to me at least, all right, Stetson Bennett is our starter. And also, like, this Georgia team is damn good, man. We're damn good. We just had back-to-back dominant wins against Kentucky and Arkansas. And then we come to Jordan Hare and just completely dominate Auburn. And that last drive against Auburn, where we just rammed down their throats and scored a touchdown or run the clock out. I mean, we bitch slapped them that drive and just completely demoralized them. And that was a lot of fun. So that was my favorite moment. So let's talk about MVPs. What would you say your offensive MVP of the season and your defensive MVP of the season?
Yeah. So offensive MVP would definitely be Brock. Like, Stetson, of course, great. The SEC championship, even though it's done, like we're national champions, we shouldn't worry about it. It was still not good, but like the consistent force since game one, day one, Brock, he's been amazing. And then I also want to give a shout out to Warren McClendon and Sawyer. Like, I just want to give a shout out to our bookend tackles. They have been great. And then Sawyer, even when he moves to guard, because we can't get good push, he still does well at guard. And you can put in Broderick Jones there. So I just want to give out a shout out to our bookend tackles. And then, of course, Brock being the focal point of the passing game from day one, game one, building a rapport with not one, but two quarterbacks that made him their favorite target and being a freak of nature. Defensively, like, the easy answers would be Jordan Davis and Nakobe Dean. It is Nakobe Dean. I don't even know why I'm trying to do that. Like, Jordan, of course, a tremendous space eater. I take two, frees up one for you. But like Nakobe, pass coverage, being great pass rusher, run stopper, like no matter what comes out, Nakobe's been that guy. He was a menace. Like, I just want to say the closing speed of our front seven is ridiculous. Like, you saw them flying over the field. Like, you saw Channing Tindall sack Bryce Young. Just, they were flying. Quay Walker is probably the fastest linebacker I've seen. And he's probably not even the fastest linebacker in Georgia. Like, I would say, I mean, yeah, it's Nakobe, but literally every single player on that defense is MVP because that defense barely let up 10 a game. And that's really only inflated because of the SEC championship game. Other than that, they hadn't let up anything over 20. Tennessee just got a garbage time touchdown. There's really there's nothing to really complain about. So, you know what? Everybody's MVP. I'm cheating. Every single person's MVP. Because no matter how big, how small, you all play a part. Everybody.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm with you, man. I really want to. Well, obviously, Brock Bowers was our best offensive player all year, most consistent. He was a difference maker out there from day one, like you mentioned. We didn't score any points offensively against Clemson, but or we didn't score any touchdowns against Clemson. But Brock Bowers was the difference. He was a force in that game. He was pretty much our most consistent weapon offensively that game. And it just continued. That game against UAB, man, and I think one of my favorite moment of his was that touchdown against Georgia Tech. He just closing speed, it was just insane. Um, it was just crazy. So, uh, but I'm gonna give it to James Cook because James Cook, he was behind Zamir White for a couple of years. They were both behind um, uh, Swift,
Holyfield and
DeAndre Swift and Holyfield for a couple of years, and he stuck. He kind of just he always made us a presence. He had a presence every year, and this year, he still wasn't RB1 this year. It's fair to say Zeus was RB1, but towards the end of the year, James Cook really made the difference. I think you said the game against in the Orange Bowl, he made the difference. On Monday night, he made the difference with that long touchdown, with a long run after that blocked field goal. He made the difference. So I'm going to give my offensive MVP. I'm giving Brock Bowers the Tom Brady treatment, where it's like, he's good, he's going to dominate. Right. So you kind of go a different direction to give other people recognition. So I'm going to go with James Cook as my offensive MVP. For defense, I can't do it. It has to be Nakobe Dean, man. Not just on the field. His leadership, his presence was insane. My favorite, I know, I'm sure you saw it against, in the Natty, where he got after Channing Tindall for blowing the assignment and almost causing a touchdown. He got in his face and kind of said, "Come on, man! Come on, get in your head." And then the very next play, Channing Tindall got the sack on Bryce Young. And who's the first person to get to him to congratulate him? Is Nakobe Dean, and that's a leader right there, man. That's a damn that you can take the skill out of somebody, but you can't take away their maturity, their leadership. That's enshrined in a person on and off the field. And that was a special moment for me. So Nakobe Dean, he's forever a damn good dog. He's up there with I didn't think he could better than Roquan Smith, but Nakobe Dean is definitely up there. Nakobe may not be as good as Roquan, but just the overall character and maturity and leadership that he showed all season long and for the last couple of years really, really, really resonated with me. So I'll give Nakobe Dean the defensive MVP. So lastly, before we kind of wrap up this Georgia Love Fest here, I want to ask you, because we've both been fans for a long time. We've mentioned it all, throughout the day. Seeing so many years, so much failure, so many coming close, so many times. Just kind of seeing them finally get over the top. It's such a special moment, at least for me. It was emotional. I literally broke down in tears. One, because I'm thinking about just finally getting over the hump, and two, just thinking about my dad. I grew up watching Georgia football games with my dad for years. Since my entire childhood, me and my dad would watch Georgia football for every Saturday. And then he, with him no longer being around, he did pass away a few years ago. It's special to know, kind of carrying that tradition over and holding my son with me, just kind of passing the baton. And I'm not trying to get sappy or anything like that, but it was just a special moment, finally seeing that moment of victory and winning a championship. And it was a special moment for me, and it really meant a lot, more so than just seeing my favorite team win. Just personally, and kind of, it's almost kind of a closure of that pain of losing my dad and not being able to see football games with him. It kind of felt like he had, like, hell yeah, I'm sure he's up there looking at this, looking down, and he played a hand in it. At least what I tell myself. But it was a special moment for me. So I'm sure you kind of have, maybe a similar story, or what did it mean for you to see Georgia win a championship?
It meant that I can rest easy. Georgia's created a lot of heartbreak, a lot of pain. I felt the same way with the Eagles. Now that they won the Super Bowl, I'm at ease. I'm at ease. Like, same thing with Chelsea. Chelsea won a Champions League this past year. I feel, even though I was around the first time they won it, and like I was a fan then as well, like it felt good because they were also really bad in Champions League between the Champions League wins. So it felt good. Like this felt cathartic. Like I can breathe, rest easy. All those times, like even not even going towards the 2010s where we lost every single close game. Like going back to the 2000s where we had a drop pass and we couldn't beat Florida. So that, although we probably wouldn't have gotten in over Miami or Ohio State that year, but still to have that shot to get into the game. Or 2007, losing to South Carolina and Tennessee, and Kentucky couldn't get it done in 3 overtimes against Tennessee, so we were stuck at home instead of facing LSU for a right to be in the national title. Yeah, folks, if you're college fans, football fans, you know about 2007, and you know about how not division, but conference foes didn't really face each other until 2011 with Alabama LSU. Anyways, so all those moments, losing twice to Nick Saban in 2003 when we thought we could do it. Any big moment, it was not fun, but don't have to think about those anymore. Can relax, can breathe, can enjoy myself. Now the only thing that'll pay me is the Sixers because they're just absolutely garbage. I mean, they're good, but like there's no shot of them winning a title. So, but no, just back in 2002 with David Pollock, that strip sack interception, Houdini play, now to the national title. It's been a long, long ride.
Yeah, no, it really has, man. It's been a long time coming, and we had those moments of just pure heartbreak. And there's a lot this year where it kind of, like we talked about, there's a lot of plays this year where it felt that way, right? That those plays were, those plays were happening, and it's special. It's special that no matter what, we took punches all year. Actually, I'm sorry, I don't want to say that because we steamrolled through everybody, so I don't want to say that, but at least against Alabama, we took punches, man. They hit hard, and we hit hard back, and that's the difference this year. We didn't fall. They hit hard. They hit us really hard, a couple times, and we didn't fall. We didn't falter. We stayed the course, and it's safe to say that I love, shout out Vince Dooley, and Vince Dooley's the GOAT. But I think at this point it's safe to say that Kirby Smart is the greatest Georgia football coach in history. Just what he's done in the 6 years that he's been here, man, it's incredible. What he's done to the program. And Mark Ridd did a lot. Mark Ridd did a lot of winning, but the culture is different. There's a different culture. There's a different expectation of winning. There's a different kind of bravado this team has since Kirby Smart's been the head coach. And it's special, and just to see it culminate in a championship is great. It's a special moment. So let's hope that it's only the beginning, man. I'm getting cocky. I saw the Braves win the World Series this year. I saw Georgia win. I'm getting cocky. I'm expecting the next one. The Falcons aren't going to do it anytime soon. It's going to be at least 3 or 4 years before that happens, unless they have like a fluky year, like like one of those one and done champions we've seen, in the last few years. But I've seen the Spurs win championships, and none of those hit the way this Georgia championship hit, and it was a special moment. But that pretty much, that puts the bow on the season. We blinked and it's over. We were talking about, I feel like it was just yesterday, we were reacting to the Georgia win over Clemson, and here we are, almost 18, 19 weeks later. Actually, no, it's more than that. We had about 37 days between the champion, the conference title game, and now. So about 3 or 4 months, 3 or 4 months of football like that in an instant is gone, and it's over. So we put a bow on the season to wrap up the 2021 season in history for the first time in my lifetime, we go out as winners. It's a special feeling. It's special. It's no more thinking of what ifs, no more man, if they had done this, or if this goes a different way. We don't have to think about that. We're hosting the trophy, and that's special. That is special. And I do want to say one thing before we go. I want to just shout out everybody. We're not done. We're not going anywhere. We're going to have a lot of content coming in throughout the off season. We're going to, talk about recruiting. We're going to talk about a spring ball coming up. There's going to be a lot of moving parts. Obviously, the transfer portal is going to be in full swing all off season from now until September. But there's a lot of content coming up. But at least for the 2021 season, looking back on it, I just want to shout out a big shout out to everybody in the transfer portal that made this happen. Liam, Dylan, Andrew, Josh, even some, we had a lot of guys and gals come in, maybe they weren't as involved, but they played a huge part. Grace, Emily, Leica, man, if I'm blanking on your names, I'm so sorry, but every single person made a huge part in getting here, and to get to letting those guys take a step back and letting us have this moment and have center stage, the spotlight, let us have the spotlight for today's episode. It's special. We didn't have to talk about X's and O's that much. We talked about what it meant, talked about the game, just as Georgia fans and just how this meant to us. It's special. So I just want to shout out to everybody. It's only the beginning. We're going to have a lot more coming. I hope we can keep growing, and next year it's going to be even better and even more special. So those are my parting words for the 2021 season. The floor is yours, Doug. What do you want to say?
I want to thank everyone that has watched our YouTube channel. I want to thank everybody that's listened to us, our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, any method that you use to listen to podcasts. I want to thank everybody that follows us on Twitter. I want to thank our team. Started with Liam, Dylan, Brian, Andrew, Josh, Emily, everybody. And names I'm honestly forgetting because I'm also thinking off top. I don't plan. If you guys didn't realize this by the 6th, 7th, 8th episode that I've been on, I just go off the dome because it's just more authentic that way. But honestly, thank you. Thank you. You've seen us at our highs. You only seen us at our low one time.
Yeah.
But we appreciate it. Like I said, like Brian said, there's going to be a lot more content coming this off season. Definitely check that out. In the meantime, just watch Keely Ringo's Pick 6 for now until September.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be on a loop, man.
On a loop. Enjoy.
Oh. Yeah, definitely. Well, that's it for us, guys. Thank you so much again. I can't thank anybody enough for watching, and whether it's 5 views or 100 views or 5,000 views, every view is special to us. Thank you so much. A lot more coming your way. More of the off season's it's not stop. College football doesn't stop, man. It's keep turning. The train of college football keeps turning. There is no off season in college football, so keep an eye out for us, and keep listening and keep tuning in. And we thank you guys so much, and y'all have a great evening and a happy off season. We'll see you guys.